Today we're talking about Croatian competition guns. It's the Springfield Armory XDM Elite 5 1/4 precision. Are you ready? Stand by. Welcome back to the Humble Marksman channel. I'm David, and I'll be your guide in pursuit of practical pistol proficiency. And on deck today, we've got the Iron Sight competition gun from Springfield Armory. The XDM was released in 2009 initially as the competition model, with featuring a match grade barrel and a number of other features, including 19-round magazines, and it fared pretty well in the segment of competition style guns of that era. And if you want a Cliff's Notes version of what changed, they made the controls ambidextrous, they added a memory bump onto the grip safety, they made the slide serrations more functional, they include a plastic magazine well with 22-round magazines that now fit into the gun, and most importantly, they updated the trigger, giving it a more flatter trigger profile that is popular on pistols today. And they also, in their wisdom, gave us a gun rug as opposed to the pretty awesome clamshell case that XDMs used to come in. While the old box was kind of nice, having a soft shell clamshell that you can just take out of the safe and throw in your range bag to go to the range is better, and I wish all gun manufacturers would get on board with that program. On the website for Springfield Armory, they specifically refer to this as a competition pistol, so that's the criteria we're going to judge it against. And if you're not familiar with my reviews, just hover over the timescale and you can jump around to features that interest you. But before you do that, be sure and check out the links in the description. I've got a link to my Patreon where $1 gets you 3 to 5 posts per week and interaction that you don't get here on YouTube, as well as a link to join Big Daddy Unlimited, which is a buyer's club for Second Amendment things, where you can get the best prices and your first month is just $1. So that's probably of interest to you. And before we go any further, I do need to throw out a disclaimer. This gun was sent to me by Springfield Armory specifically to do some pieces for them over on their website, thearmorylife.com. However, this is my channel, which they're not associated with, so I am not under any agreement to say nice things about them because my credibility is the single most important thing that I possessed on this platform. So you'll see that I give it a fair viewing in this video. Now, with that all said, the initial impressions as they hand the gun to you in the store is going to be that the ergonomics and how it actually fits in your hand are quite natural. It feels very good in hand, and all of the controls are exactly where you kind of want them to be. The trigger that they've updated, which they call the something match enhanced trigger assembly or something like that, I don't remember what META stands for, but it's a META trigger, is okay. It's not top of the market as everybody likes to build their triggers as being, but it competes rather favorably against other striker-fired pistols in the segment. The quality of the gun is commensurate with the price. You won't have any doubts that you're holding a gun that is worth what they're asking about it just based on feel alone. And aesthetically speaking, I mean, it is better looking than the old models. I think the updated lines of the serrations do look pretty good, and kind of the large window on top of the slide is kind of neat as well, and the target sights actually are quite usable. But not every pistol is perfect, and with every pistol, I like to do this right after initial impressions. It's things that I don't like about the pistol, because let's face it, no pistol is perfect that I've yet encountered, and this pistol is no exception to that. So with the XDM line of pistols, they do have both a loaded chamber indicator that pops up right here at the back of the hood, and they have a striker position indicator that indicates the position of the striker, as you can see there. These are features that I don't particularly care for. Since this isn't an optic gun, the loaded chamber indicator is not a big deal, and you can pretty much ignore the striker position indicator with no problems. And you notice I didn't say anything about the grip safety. I actually kind of like the grip safety because it's pretty much impossible not to hold onto the gun some kind of way and put enough pressure on it to make it release the striker. The only thing that I don't necessarily care for about it is that without the grip safety depressed, you can only move the slide back to there. So if this breaks some kind of way, getting around out of the gun could potentially be an issue, but so far this has been a very, very reliable pistol to me, and I'm sure there's probably a workaround that I'm not aware of that can help get the gun apart. And finally, because this is an import gun, it has the thumb rest right here. It's not as bad as some of the other models that are right there, but it's pretty slick right there, and it has the thumb rest. Don't put your thumb in the thumb rest, guys. It's just a recipe for missing with a pistol. And moving on to the frame is quite nice. The checkering on both the back strap and the front strap are quite strong. It's a very large knobby texture that kind of your hand flows in between the ridges in and really kind of locks in. Because there are two ways that you can grip a pistol. The first is geometric, which is how the pistol fits the form factor of your hand, and the second is via texture. So from the front and back strap, which is two places where texture really matters, it does quite well. The shape of the grip tang and everything is quite good. This is a very, very comfortable pistol. Many people will like how this thing feels in their hand. However, on the traction front, where they kind of miss is right here. This is where your support hand helps control recoil by planting on the side of the frame, and it is just smooth plastic right here. That's not ideal. However, you can still manage to get a good pinch. As a right-handed shooter, you can get your left thumb on the takedown lever and use it to pinch into the trigger guard, providing upward pressure, really helping stabilize the muzzle as it recoils, providing a shooting experience that is quite good. Moving on up to the slide. The slide work is honestly pretty well done on this gun. The enlarged serrations are very easy to grasp. It makes forward cocking very, very easy, and the rear serrations work just fine as well. The finish seems to be pretty good. I've been doing a lot of holster work with this gun for the stuff I'm doing over on the Armory Life, and the wear has been very minimal so far, so the finish seems to hold up quite well. Moving on to the trigger actually is quite good as far as striker triggers are concerned. The face of it is very lightly serrated. I didn't even notice that it had serrations on it. It's kind of one of the ATF's import kind of things that they get points for. So they did a good job serrating it. It's not like a Glock serrations on like the Glock 19. And the trigger safety does go mostly flush. You can kind of feel a little bit of a ridge in the center of the trigger, but ergonomically, the trigger is very easy to get hold of, and the trigger reach is quite good. I think most people, small-handed shooters and large-handed shooters, will be able to find a home on this pistol without too much of an issue. Now, I feel like we need objective criteria to talk about the mechanical quality of the trigger pull, because a lot of people on YouTube have never handled high-level pistols and understand like how high the mountain can actually be for good triggers. I've shot Infinities, I've shot multi-$1,000 custom guns. So my definition of what a good trigger is going to be a very light uptake to a very clean, precise wall. Then you build pressure until there is a release, and very short amount of over travel. And then when you reset, if there's a lot of over travel, it needs to have a positive reset. And if there's almost no over travel, then the reset force doesn't really matter. So on this trigger, there is a little bit of pre-travel as you engage the trigger blade safety and defeat it and get on a wall. The wall is fairly firm, although there is a bit of a roll through the wall. I hesitate to call it creep because it truly is like a rolling break. Generally, I don't favor rolling brakes, but this is so predictable, it's very easy to manage, and as a result, so while the trigger isn't like textbook glass rod braking and a release, the over travel is quite minimal, and the reset is okay. There are 2 clicks on the reset, one as you reset to where the trigger broke, and the second as you reset to where the wall began. Now, it's something you're never going to notice from the back of a galloping horse or a course of fire, as it were, but if you're in the gun store, you're going to notice it. And to communicate with you the most objective way possible, we use the Humble Marksman trigger rating systems to let you know exactly what the trigger is like. And we put this gun on the scale, and the trigger was good enough to make Samuel L. Jackson sing. Poorly. Moving on to the other controls. The controls are exactly where you'd want them to be. The mag release is ambidextrous, and the slide release is on the right side of the pistol, so it's fully operational by our Southpaw brethren. Now, I don't really care about the slide release because it's easy enough to ignore, but I'm not wild about a fully ambi magazine catch, because you can't make it as large as it could be if it was single-sided and reversible, which for a competition gun would be quite nice. However, it is still an easy-to-get-to magazine release. It does well enough. I haven't had any issues. I've actually competed with the OSP model of this gun, and I haven't had any issues getting mags to drop. So magazine release does exactly what it needs to do. As far as shooting experience is concerned, the gun actually shoots really well. It's very pleasant to shoot. You'll notice as you hold the gun that the barrel is right there, so the bore axis is quite high. However, they did such a good job of balancing the slide by removing material here. And if you actually look around the firing pin channel at the back of the gun, you can see that they've weight relieved the slide. So the gun is no heavier than its shorter barreled brethren. And that's rather impressive considering it's packed on an extra 3/4 inch of barrel. And all of that to say, the gun is quite well balanced. It is very easy to get this gun to lift and return to a point of aim on target. So shooting this gun quick is a lot of fun. I actually quite like shooting the gun, and I honestly have been impressed with how stable this gun is when you shoot it at speed. Because the gun has a polymer frame with steel magazines, it's very easy to reload. The magwell would be great to use because it saves the frame, and you can see my frame is a little bit chewed up because I've actually done reload practice with this gun. But the edges of the frame are chamfered to sort of enlarge the magwell. It's not flared out quite like the Gen 5 Glock magwell is, but it's done well enough. The higher bore axis does contribute to a little bit of rotation when you shoot the gun, but it returns to zero so well, I don't care. It's kind of like shooting a P226, honestly, which is very nice to say because P226 are very pleasant shooting guns. Because the gun does weigh about 30 ounces, it's a heavier polymer gun, it just has a heft to it and a presence that it does inspire confidence, and it does shoot very well. And moving on to the aftermarket, the gun has a pretty robust aftermarket. Magazines are fairly priced at about $26, $27, so you're not gonna break the bank on the magazines. They come with a kind of polished steel sort of look to them. They're pretty solid magazines. The mag bodies themselves are 19 rounds, and with the XDM Elite trim right from the factory, Springfield will give you +3 base pads. Now those base pads do not fit the mag gauge for USPSA competition. So if you want to compete in limited division, you're going to have to swap the base pads to something that is USPSA legal. And similarly, if you want to shoot this gun in production division or even IDPA, then you're gonna have to get the flat base plates. The flush fitting base plates, I think that it will come with 2, and when you buy additional magazines to compete with, just make sure you just buy the 19 round magazines and you should be good to go. As far as holster availability is concerned, it fits all the old XDM holsters, so there are a ton of holsters out there for this. Mag pouches aren't a problem. Similarly, if you feel like you need to update the trigger, then Powder River Precision is there for you. I personally don't feel the need to monkey with the trigger because I feel like it's good enough. I mean, a 4.5 pound trigger is pretty solid on a competition gun. 3.5 would be a little bit better, but at the same time, like a trigger job on this gun's like $175 or something like that, and takes a lot of effort, and I would rather just learn how to pull the trigger straight to the rear. So in conclusion, the gun definitely checks the box pretty strongly for an iron-sighted competition pistol. But before we get into all that, we have to discuss the relationship between I, the content creator, and you, the subscriber. And if you're not subscribed, now's the time to do so. You made it this far, leave that like. So I make world-class firearms content, and you watch this content. As you watch this video, you think about the party favors for your children's birthday coming up. So you go to the Oreo ID website and you order custom Oreos for your kids' party favors featuring my logo on them. So all of the children at your child's birthday party will know of the good work here on the channel, despite this channel not really being appropriate for children, but hey, you do you. The ergonomics and shootability of this gun are undeniable. It absolutely competes in the segment pretty well. My only sort of disappointment with the gun is it is a pure iron sight model, but kind of to that point, if you have an optics mounted gun, you don't need a 5.25 inch barrel. Like a 4.5 or even a 4-inch barrel is probably a little bit better due to how the gun balances. But as far as a pure iron sight gun, the accuracy is pretty phenomenal out of this little bad boy. But it does kind of make me have a greater question, like this is what a competition gun would look like circa like 2012, 2013. Now that we're entering sort of the next realm of competition where everybody's going to slide ride optics, I do wonder what the next offering from Springfield Armory is going to be like, because I don't think it's going to be a 5.25 inch gun. But if you're shooting IDPA or 3-gun or even USPSA Production division, I definitely think that this gun is very, very capable to do what you need it to do. On an iron-sighted gun, it's pretty much undeniable that extra 5.25 inch that you've got going on with the barrel is going to greatly contribute to accuracy at speed due to the increased sight radius. The recoil impulse is super pleasant. The gun is very easy to shoot accurately, and magazines are cheap enough to where it makes it pretty comfortable to live with. But I'm curious what you guys think about the gun. Would this be a competition gun you'd consider if you wanted to compete with an iron-sighted gun? Let me know in the comments below. And if you made it this far, I really appreciate it. Hit that like button if you hadn't done it already. YouTube really thinks you'll enjoy this video here, and I've picked this other one for you, which will be a surprise to you and me as well. Appreciate you guys. Catch you on the next one.